Wells Fargo gives you access to direct deposit funds up to 2 days early.
Plus, if you look at the X and Y axes...
What if everything came 2 days early? Like the weekend.
Well, that was a pleasant surprise.
You can't get everything early, but when it comes to direct deposits, you can with Wells Fargo.
Visit wellsfargo.com/get-early to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. Not all direct deposits are eligible. Early availability is not guaranteed and may vary between deposits from the same payer. Wells Fargo Bank N.A., member FDIC.
Detroit Lakes, moving east at 35 miles per hour. Hazard, 2-inch hail and 60 miles per hour wind gusts. Source, trained weather spotters. Impact, people and animals outdoors will be injured. Expect hail damage to roofs, siding, windows, and vehicles. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Detroit Lakes, Barnesville, Pelican Rapids, Lake Lida, Shoreham, Earhart, and Danville. This includes Interstate 94 in Minnesota between mile markers 23 and 35. This is a dangerous storm. Prepare immediately for large destructive hail capable of producing significant damage. People outside should move to a shelter, inside a strong building and away from windows. If on or near any lake, get away from the water and move indoors or inside a vehicle. Remember, lightning can strike out to 15 miles from the parent thunderstorm. If you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by lightning. Move to safe shelter now. Do not be caught on the water in a thunderstorm. A severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 5:45 p.m. For
Now we got me. All right. Well, not quite the... Boy, this was a bizarre day, let me tell you. Not the camera I want above me, but it's going to have to do. Just had to get on real fast. They have issued a tornado warning here out into northwestern parts of Minnesota, kind of east, southeast of Grand Forks, southeast of Crookston, just north of Fertile. Tornado and quarter-sized hail. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing was located over Melvin about 15 minutes ago. Locations impacted include Fertile, Winger, Maple Bay, and Melvin. So they were looking at some rotation earlier in there. Surprised me a little bit because I was seeing some rotation in some earlier thunderstorms and some things that looked like hooks. And they didn't issue anything, so I don't know if they had some boots on the ground that said there was some a rotating wall cloud or what, but nevertheless, they have issued a tornado warning here for this area. Like I said, looks like it's just kind of north east of Fertile, southeast of Maple Bay, heading towards the Winger area. So, get a storm motion on that. Yeah, and I guess if I'm looking at it, it'd probably be better off just northeast of Fertile. Like I said, heading towards Winger. So this is for south central Polk County in far northwestern parts of Minnesota. Also, a little bit further back, we have one severe thunderstorm warning. Just to the south, it's starting to diminish. It looks like they've kind of decreased the intensity of it. It's saying 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail. And then the other one just a little bit further south than that actually was dropping 1.5 inch to 2 inch hail earlier, just west of Fargo. And then looks like as it went through Fargo, West Fargo, 1.5 inch, South Fargo around 1 inch in diameter hail. So some pretty big hail as this particular cell went through. So they're still saying 60 mile per hour winds and 2 inch hail and 60 mile per hour winds moving east, maybe a little southeast at 35 miles per hour. Locations include Detroit Lakes, Barnesville, Pelican Rapids, Lake Lida, Shoreham, Earhart, and Danville. So coming up to that Vergus, Frazee, Luce, Dent, Perham area. I guess I could put the Perham Perm cam up above me, because eventually it would run into that. Where am I looking here? So a couple severe thunderstorm warnings. This the storm that's been a little bit further south, that's been dropping the big hail, continues to show around the 2-inch mark or so. I do think it's been, kind of been diminishing here within the last few minutes in particular, but so maybe not quite as big, but nevertheless, we've got a cell that's had a history of producing, up to 2 inches. More recently, it's been closer to 1 inch in diameter hail, and then further north, you're probably getting below 60 or below 1 inch in diameter with this one, because it really looks like, that one's falling apart. I would imagine they're going to let that one expire once that time comes. And then again, we've got this tornado warning. Now it looks like just east of Fertile, heading towards Winger. As I look at it, got a little bit of, I guess your inflow notch in through here, and your little dangly bits, I guess, as some people like to call them. So basically right in through here, as I look at this particular part of the radar, and that matches up with the velocity. So, you've got the couplet going with the rotation going the opposite directions there. So, just east of Fertile, kind of heading towards Winger, maybe just a little south of Winger, into northwestern parts of Minnesota at this point. Yeah, kind of been a strange one in a little bit. We're expecting some storms to develop. And then a bunch blew up into South Dakota, and they even issued a severe thunderstorm watch. And that probably surprised me more than anything. But at the time there were quite a few severe thunderstorm warnings out. But they did issue a severe thunderstorm watch out for this region into parts of South Dakota until about 11 p.m. Right now, the only severe thunderstorm warning in South Dakota is just southwest of Brookings. This is in southeast Kingsbury, northwest Moody, northeastern Lake, and southeastern Brookings counties. Ping pong ball-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds, moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. Locations impacted include Sinai and Nunda. So 1.5-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Sinai, Nunda, Rutland, perhaps. Main threat there looking like some decent sized hail. At least it was looking earlier. Maybe close to an inch to 1.25 inches. At this point, when they issued the warning, they said 1.5 inches. So somewhere in there, between the 1.5 inch mark. Just south of Brookings, eventually heading, through the I-90 corridor, or I-29 corridor, but not quite yet. Sinai, Nunda, Rutland, just be on the lookout there for some hail-producing storm, basically, that's moving southeast at 25. And then heading way, way out west into southwestern parts of South Dakota, which is what it looks like the Ellsworth cam now kind of focused on to their south. They've got the cumulonimbus clouds there down to the south, but just way, way down by Batesland, went past Wounded Knee. Looked like they had a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust. And a little bit of rotation going in there, that's actually not bad rotation. When you have, again, not surprising when you see some pretty big hail that you're going to have some rotation in with that. But they are saying basically golf ball-sized hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds possible with this, moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. This is until 5:15 Mountain Time for southeast Ogalla, Lakota, and southeast Bennett counties. Locations impacted include Porcupine, Wounded Knee, Batesland, Wackpamney, Sweat, Porcupine Butte Housing, Southwest La Creek Wildlife Refuge, and Southern Pine Ridge Reservation. So 1 inch hail, 70-mile-per-hour wind with this big bad boy. That's trying to get out of the location, trying to get out of the state. but not quite there yet. But yeah, even a bit of rotation in with that. Actually, some decent rotation in, but no warning out for that particular one. Again, the only warning out, tornado warning that is for northwest Minnesota. For this bad boy, just east of Fertile. And boy, that last scan doesn't look very impressive at all at this point. In fact, that's weakened quite a bit when I look at that type of rotation. Not to say, 100% winger, and for those of you between winger and Fertile, you're completely out of the woods, but it looks encouraging as of this point, not quite as tight as it did earlier. I'm going to put it over to Radar Omega. You're not going to see my pretty face, but you should still be able to hear me. So here you should basically see where the severe thunderstorm watch lies across the southwest parts of Minnesota, which looks like they just kind of added fairly recently. The one before that was for this area across South Dakota. So I guess it looks like they're expecting these storms to continue to develop and push to the southeast from what the storm's prediction is looking at. And they've got a new severe thunderstorm warning out for this particular storm here that's just around that Pelican Rapids area. If it lets me click on it. So ping pong ball sized hail, they are still saying. 40 moving southeast at about 40 miles per hour. Locations impacted include Perham, Pelican Rapids, Ottertail Lake, Lake Lida, New York Mills, Battle Lake, and Henning. So a new severe thunderstorm warning that is out. And you can see where basically those impacts or where those locations are going to be impacted. This severe thunderstorm watch, let's see, just came out about 12 minutes ago, effective until midnight. Scattered large hail likely with isolated very large hail events to 2 inches in diameter possible. Scattered damaging gusts to 70 miles per hour possible. Multiple corridors of storms will progress east-southeast through the evening and into and across west, south, and central parts of Minnesota. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, they are fully expecting these storms to continue to move southeast at least. I mean, they've got this out until midnight now. And then, of course, as we said earlier, we've got this guy up here. Just in between Fertile and Winger, just north of County Highway 1. And we'll go back to this radar here. Take a little better look at it. As I said before, the rotation doesn't look quite as pronounced as it did earlier. But still has just a little bit of an appendage to it. I guess that's always something that remains concerning a little bit. You got your inflow notch in through here. So you got your airflow coming in, and you got on the backside your rear flank and downdraft. So somewhere within this region would be your best chance for seeing any type of tornadic activity once again. Loosely lines up, I guess, with what's showing up on the velocity. Down to Brookings. Yeah, I think that looks like that'll probably continue on at this point, and probably past just south of Brookings. And at this point, just probably north of Coleman. So between that Brookings and Coleman area is where it looks like this particular storm wants to move through. That one trying to have a bit of an appendage on, but again, not weak type of rotation in there. But as I say many times, you can't have big hail without at least some rotation in it. So, yeah, we've got that one out for until 6 o'clock for about another 20 minutes, but I would expect that one to be updated the way that one's going. Ping pong ball-sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds across east central parts of South Dakota. Looks like some of these storms had a history of producing 1.5-inch hail earlier. We've got a new warning out now just to the northeast of that one. Heading towards, maybe this is more the one you're talking about, Fifth Wheel. But this one, new warning out for this storm, 60-mile-per-hour winds, half-dollar-sized hail moving east at 25 miles per hour for southern Lincoln County in southeast Minnesota and east central Brookings County in east central South Dakota. Again, moving east at about 25 locations include Lake Benton and Arco. A couple more warnings now poking into Minnesota. Just south of Clara City, east of Maynard. 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. Moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. This severe thunderstorm will be near Sacred Heart around 5:50, so in about another 9 minutes. Other locations include Renville and Olivia. So quarter-sized hail in with that particular guy. And now, kind of southwest of the Twin Cities area, way southwest, but southwest. Another severe thunderstorm warning, 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-sized hail. This is for Sibley, Renville, and Nicollet counties. 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-sized hail, moving southeast at 40 miles per hour. Locations include Gibbon around 545, Winthrop 555, other locations, Gaylord and Lafayette. Back up here, take a look around. And they did, so they did reissue this severe thunderstorm warning to push this cell further east. 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-sized hail, moving east at about 40. Locations impacted include Detroit Lakes, Lake Park, Ulen, Toad Lake, Bad Medicine Lake, Height of the Land Lake, and Callaway. Just having to update a couple things here on the fly. That one again, the issue that's valid until 6:45. So they did re-up that particular severe thunderstorm warning, and then we continue to have this larger one, ping pong ball sized hail. With, again, Perham, Pelican Rapids, Otter Tail Lake, Lake Lida, New York Mills, Battle Lake, and Henning. And then, of course, the tornado warning up here, just west of Winger. The rotation just isn't there anymore. And even the appendage, I mean, this isn't, it's not your typical look. It's not your good look for what you want to see, I guess, if you want to see a tornado, but, so we'll see what happens here, what they decide to do with that. That's valid for about another 16 minutes. So we'll see what the Weather Service winds up doing with this particular warning out into northwest parts of Minnesota. It does say this one's heading east about 25. Looks like maybe it's got a bit of a southeasterly turn to this one. So heading just probably south of Winger, in between the Winger and the Beijing area. For some reason, we sure like Beijing when it comes to watching our tornadoes, at least into northwest parts of Minnesota this year. Because I remember watching Beijing earlier this year when we had kind of those cold core tornadoes. That was a fun, interesting afternoon. All right. I'm gonna, yeah. Kind of working on the fly here. Give me 1 second. That's a stretched out version of Perm. That's the Perm cam. So that's where some of those storms a little bit further south of that tornado warning is heading. Perm right there. So should catch, I guess, the north side of that. I don't have anything else where that's heading. I don't think I've got a Fergus Falls cam. Alex has got some storms. I guess I could have maybe done Alexandria, but they don't have a very... All they do is they show Paul Bunyan, and that's about it. So it's a little... you don't get a lot of the sky there. So hopefully we get a little something out of the Perm cam. But yeah, we continue to see these severe thunderstorm warnings here going into the evening now. And we got this guy further to the north. I know there was a tornado warning out with this one earlier when it was up in Canada. So just in the far, far northwestern parts of Minnesota, ping pong ball sized hail. Looks like this is reported by emergency management, apparently. So western Roseau County in far northwest Minnesota, moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. Locations include Roseau, Badger, Salol, Fox, Mulung, Malung, Pine Creek, and Ross. So some hail heading your direction. Yeah, there's a lot to follow along with here. And they did basically expire that tornado warning. They let that one go. So nothing there. So that's good news. So no tornado warnings, just a number of severe thunderstorm warnings. Looks like we got another one down in far southern parts of Minnesota. 60 mile per hour wind gusts, quarter-sized hail, moving southeast at 20. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roof sidings, trees. Locations impacted include Waldorf, look out, Pembleton, and Waldorf. You've got storms coming your way. Just south of St. Clair. Looks like just northeast of Pembleton might be some smaller hail, but... yeah, the bigger stuff, the more fun stuff is a little bit further back, just to the south of St. Clair. So southwest of Waseca, south of Janesville. So Pemberton, Waldorf. Waldorf's just kind of a fun name to say. I don't know why. Waldorf. And then up this one here take a look at the Sioux Falls radar. Looks like they upgraded this severe thunderstorm warning. Golf ball sized hail now and 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Golf ball sized hail moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. People and animals outdoors will be injured. Expect hail damage roof sidings, windows, and vehicles. Expect wind damage to roof sidings and trees. Locations impacted include Lake Benton. So 1 3/4 inch hail with this bugger. Heading towards Lake Benton. Yeah, just north of Highway 14, coming up to 75, U.S. Highway 75, the way it looks. And then this one just northeast of Nunda, south of Brookings. Well, rotation's getting a little bit better with that one. Maybe just keep a left eye on that one. If your left eye isn't a good one, keep a right eye on that one. Okay, there's an update. Let's see what's okay. That's not quite as fun as it was earlier, as in that very last scan. Okay. But I think it's probably got some decent hail in with this one, at least an inch. Yeah, it probably still has some growth left to it. So, yeah, not quite as good a rotation, but running through I-90 here between Coleman and Brookings. I guess I haven't talked about this guy way down in southwest parts of South Dakota for a little bit. Boy, they had an 87 mile per hour wind gust with this bugger down in Ogallala, Lakota County, 9 southwest of Batesville. 87 mile per hour wind gust. Whew. That's a little breezy. Yeah, well, that would make sense. That's when that good rotation went over the top of them. Oh man, I'm surprised sometimes they don't issue tornado warnings more often down there. But they just went with it. They just said severe thunderstorm warning. Bam, good. But that didn't have some man, that's ballsy a little bit. But I'm not the weather service, so we go along with them. But they did have an 87 mile per hour wind gust with that as it went overhead. Not surprising given what we just saw on the velocity. Thankfully, that storm, the beef of the storm is heading out of the state. That beefcake is heading out, so that's good. But wow, that was interesting. Yeah, no kidding. I bet there was some strong danglings with that one. Yeah, we can. Let me take a look. I got to pull up some pivotal weather information. Well, if you want to get an idea here, We'll pull that up. We'll back off on this so you can kind of get a wide view of what's going on a little bit. So essentially, here's what the models are showing for the remainder of the night. The latest HRRR with these cells in the northwestern parts of Minnesota, and then the scattered stuff across east central parts of South Dakota and such. Looks like they're going to continue to head pretty quickly down to the southeast and perhaps run through the Twin Cities area. This is around 10 o'clock or so. So somewhere in that 9 to 10 p.m. time frame. Once these storms run through that particular area, 11 midnight, and then 1 o'clock. So potential, given just briefly what I'm seeing here, that some of these storms could continue on as they move southeast and fairly quickly somewhere in that 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. Don't spit on the HRRR. Let's see. The NAM 3 kilometer, this is about this time frame. And about the same thing. This is 9, 10, 11. Not quite as robust poking through the Twin Cities area, but nevertheless, it does continue to push these storms eastward into the Brainerd area, south of Bemidji, kind of in the central and eastern parts of Minnesota, perhaps before they maybe diminish a little bit. But boy, they continue the southern area. Both models kind of want to pop up some storms on the southern parts of Minnesota later tonight. And then taking a look at this one, about the same, roughly. 9 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock, running through the cities, southern parts of Minnesota. 10, 11. So it looks like in that 11 p.m. time frame, most of the activity should be moving on out. But they're moving pretty quickly, Like I said, some of these warned areas, they're saying 40 miles per hour. So somewhere just in that 30, 40 mile per hour moving to the east, southeast throughout the evening hours. The one thing as we go deeper into the evening, I can't imagine there being a wide threat as far as tornadic activity. It's just not one of those types of scenarios. So I think as we get a little later into the evening, that will just kind of continue to diminish. We're losing, obviously we're going to be losing more of that good lifting, the good Cape values as we cool off, essentially, as the sun sets. And so that's going to limit the amount of stretching that's going to occur in the atmosphere. And so then basically all we're going to be left with is some hail and probably some stronger winds with that. Oh yeah, I don't like Windy app. I mean, I like it. It's good visually, but just a meteorology standpoint, maybe not the best. So they're saying golf ball sized hail with this guy and 60 mile per hour winds. Locations include Coleman at 610. Egan, Flandreau, and Trent. I'm surprised they don't give an I-29. At 5:35, the public reported golf ball-sized hail 2 miles south of Sinai, South Dakota. I don't see mile markers. I wish they gave me mile markers on I-29. Because it's going across I-29. Why don't you give me mile markers? In between, like I said, Coleman, Brookings, that guy's continuing on, heading towards Egan, Flandreau. Some golf ball-sized hail associated with that. Probably some... Well, surprisingly not, but I thought maybe we'd see some hail out of that guy. Yeah, probably just some heavy rains with this stuff further to the north. So definitely just these two couple cells. Little bit of rotation, better rotation showing up with this guy just west of Lake Benton. Perhaps keep your good eye on that one just in case. Keep your good eye on that one. Just one of them for now. It doesn't have to be both good eyes. But I think you're going to have some decent hail with that, and probably at least. I think you're going to see some gusty winds pouring out of this at the very least, coming up to Elkton and Verde. Well, yeah, like I said earlier, this one further to the north where we had the tornado warning, that one's been gone. Callaway, looks like you got a storm rolling over the top of you right now. There's not much left in that. That's mostly heavy rain, so I'm not really concerned about that anymore. This guy heading through Ottertail County towards Richville, Ottertail, New York Mills, Wadena. Still probably an inch in diameter hail with that. Might have some. It looks like we got a report back in Pelican Rapids of some tree branches down, 8 to 10 inch tree branches broken. So some wind damage associated with these with this storm as it ran across. So Richville, Dent, Ottertail, New York Mills, Deer Creek. Watch out for hail. Watch out for wind. Been a report with that back in Pelican Rapids. A lot of this is starting to get out of the reach of all the radars, unfortunately. But to look for some, probably the possibility at least, of maybe some hail in with some of these areas in through here, kind of heading in this direction as well. So not warned at this point, but Long Prairie, Browerville, Clarissa, Carl's, Minolta, Millerville, Evansville, Ashby, all you guys in there, just keep an eye on some of these storms. You might see some hail associated with these. And then again, the main one is this guy, definitely showing some good hail just west of New York Mills. New York Mills. I forget what they make there. Is it Polaris? There's or Arctic. No, it's not Arctic. Or is it? No, it's a boat. There's a boat. Some boat manufacturing company in New York Mills. I don't know. I always thought that was fascinating for some reason. Driving by and like, oh, there's a Lund manufacturing. Yeah. And then we've got this guy way up north heading towards Roseau. A little bit of rotation with that. Perhaps some gusty winds poking out of there. Maybe some 1-inch hail associated with that guy. And then as we head down south of the cities, south of Wilmer, heading towards Lake Lillian, Cosmo, Rosendale. Well, probably just south of Rosendale. Winthrop. So this is Sibley and Nicollet counties. Yeah, we'll put this guy in motion. Shows what you know. Yeah. Yep. Like Scott said, if you get Radar Omega, once you get a subscription, you have it for both. You have it for both your app for your phone, and you can get it on the computer as well. That's why you're seeing it on here when I show you, because obviously it's on my desktop. So that's not this. This is GR2 Analyst is what I use. Basically, you pay for it once and be done, but it's a little spendy. But like I said, you pay for it once and you're good, and it's kind of what I've been used to for many, many years. So I guess I just kind of continue going with it. So yeah, this whole area, you can see just not going to go away anytime soon. In fact, I would say, according to what the models were showing, they were saying 9-10 o'clock. It looks like that's going to be earlier than that. By the time some of that runs into the Twin Cities area, that I think that's a little slow. 6 o'clock. That might be closer to, we'll say 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish. By the time that runs into kind of that western metro area. So I think, yeah, looks like your HRRR model. Like, I think you're right, Scott. Maybe not the greatest once again, but it's okay. You just got to figure out the timing sometimes. You got to take a look at it and go, okay, this is what it's showing for timing wise. Where's it at now? Seven, 8. Yeah. We'll say closer to 8 by the time it runs through the metro. Well, the perm cam up above me is getting a little darker. Not surprisingly. So that is, where's perm? Oh, that's right there. So, yeah, maybe I should switch it to Wadena. Maybe I'll pull up the Wadena cam, or don't you know, and see what's going on there. Oh, Wadena. Because it looks like the perm is just north of that main area. But still seeing some rain. Yeah, that's... What are you guys at down there? Oh yeah, you're good and cooking. It felt cool here this morning. I thought. I mean, dew points are only in the low to mid 50s. I mean, which is okay, but along the trough itself, it did spike into the low 60s. So that obviously helps set off a lot of these storms as they're heading to the southeast along this trough. So a good pooling of moisture along the trough as it's heading to the southeast. Like I said, you stepped outside and it was like, oh, that doesn't feel too thunderstormy out today, but a good bit of moisture pooled up along with it. Yeah. Let's see here. So, yeah, just a whole lot of severe thunderstorm warnings out. Essentially scattered activity heading down to the south, heading southeast. Roughly anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour typically is what a lot of these cells are moving. Looks like they put out a new severe thunderstorm warning here for west or southwest Minnesota, for Lyon, Lincoln, Pipestone, and Murray counties. Golf ball sized hail, 60 mile per hour winds moving southeast, 25 miles per hour. Locations include Lake Benton around, about now, Tyler around 625, Holland, Roughton, Florence, and Woodstock also included. So eventually, I would say for Worthington, Adrian, Laverne, Wilmot, Fulda, just keep an eye on these storms. They've been pretty hefty. At least either one of these storms at some point have been pretty good as far as dropping some good sized hail, maybe some gusty winds with it. So I guess at this point I would foresee these storms continuing to move down to the southeast. So basically, like I said, anywhere within here, keep an eye on these storms here within the next hour or so. As they continue their movement down to the southeast. As for the rest, I guess I would sort of consider this area to probably continue as well, and eventually, just as these cells are kind of sliding to the southeast, the line itself moving eastward, maybe about to 20-25 miles per hour roughly. So basically, you guys in through here, within the next hour and a half or so to maybe 2 hours, more than likely this line's just going to continue to progress eastward as we go into the evening. You like my little squiggly lines? Biggest ones continue to be down in that Minnesota, southeast, South Dakota. Otherwise, pretty much everybody else, quarter size, 60 mile per hour winds, they're saying. I think that's the same. Yep. $half size. So that's 1.25 inches. This guy, this guy coming up to Regal, Painesville, Howick, New London. Golf ball sized hail and 60 mile per hour winds. They just issued this one or updated this one. Train spotters said they reported golf ball sized hail. So they upped the ante on this particular storm. So this one's gotten a little more robust here. South of Sauk Center, north of Wilmer, coming up to Regal, Howick, Paynesville, Lake Henry, Roscoe, Crow River. I really show my age a lot of times when I reference certain old shows or movies. Roscoe, Pico, Drain, good. God, that used to be one of my favorite shows. So Roscoe, you better watch out. Watch out for any flashers. Yeah, some rotation in with that. Doesn't look like anything imminent. But just a good hailer of a storm there. South of Sauk Center, north of Wilmer, Regal, Lake Henry, Roscoe, Paynesville, Howick, New London. You've got the possibility of seeing some golf ball sized hail heading your direction. Further north, we saw that one earlier. Tree branches down, 1 1/4 inch hail. Otter Tail, Deer Creek, Henning, Vining, Wadena. This good storm heading your direction. We're going to pop up to the Mayville radar. Appreciate it, Robin. Thanks for checking in. Oh, okay. Well, we got a tornado warning now up by Roseau. All right. Tornado and $half size hail. Weather spotters reported a funnel cloud. Locations include Roseau, Salal, Fox, Malung, Hayes Lake State Park, Ross, and Pencer. Take cover now. Move to a basement into your room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building and avoid windows. If you are outdoors in a mobile home or in a vehicle, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. Torrential rainfall is also occurring with this storm and may lead to flash flooding, so make sure you do not drive your vehicle through flooded roadways. So 1 1/4 inch hail, and they reported a funnel cloud associated with this just northwest of Roseau. So it looks like, I think if you're in Roseau, hockey capital, self-proclaimed hockey capital of the world, you're probably going to want to be taking cover. Fox, you're going to want to be taking cover because we got a report of a funnel cloud just northwest of Roseau heading your direction. Heading southeast at about 30 miles per hour, so moving fairly quickly. And some of this perhaps might be a little bit enveloped into some rain here as well. So just as you get this rain coming your direction, if you're within, the path of this storm, just to take cover. You might not be able to see it if anything is occurring, because if you're living, if you're into the southeast of this storm and you're in the rain, and all of a sudden if anything's on the ground, all of a sudden that's going to pop up on top of you, and you're not going to have much time to react. So best thing is that just take cover now, take shelter, go to an interior room, lowest floor of a sturdy building, and avoid the windows. Yeah, I'd say, Grace, you'll probably see some storms in Brooklyn Park eventually, yeah. Yep, I'd give it an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it should be there, roughly. So Roseau, tornado warning, funnel cloud reported up there, so make sure you're taking cover up in the far northwestern parts of Minnesota right now. So 2 schools, 1 hospital, 6,159 people affected with that. Roseau. Possibly, yeah. I'd say you might have 60-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch hail with that. Yeah. It's got the potential of being severe once it runs through the cities there. So this is the only thing I could find out in that Roseau area. You can see the ominous clouds way off in the background there. But this one's basically looking east into the storm. But so not a great view, but it's the best one I can find right now. I don't have anything else. If anybody ever knows of any type of webcams out there that I might be missing, just let me know. If you live around the area and go, hey, I know this one webcam, just share it with me somehow. But no tornadoes. No, I'm not worried about tornadoes there. This guy that we were watching, this had a history of when it was in Canada, before it came into the Minnesota side, into the U.S. side. This was tornado warned earlier with this particular cell, so obviously still continues to have some rotation in with that. But tornadic, I don't think so. I think the main thing is going to be the hail and the wind. Never say never. Is the chance zero? No, the chance is not zero. There's a chance. Chance is not zero, and it's rarely ever zero when you have thunderstorms. But if you told me to put a wager, if I had to wager one way or another, I would say I would put my money on not. All right. Anyway, yeah, Roseau. Watch out for this storm as it's running basically over you at this point. And then downwind of you, Malung. It's going to be crossing State Highway 11, 89 as well. County Roads 2, 12, and 9 eventually. So tornado warning in far northwestern parts of Minnesota, up in Roseau County in northwest Minnesota, moving southeast at about 30 miles per hour. Weather spotters reported a funnel cloud earlier. So tornado and $50 sized hail possible with this, so make sure you are taking cover when this storm approaches. Roseau, Salal, Fox, Malung, Hayes Lake State Park, Ross, and Spencer, all basically in the path of this tornadic storm at this point. As I said earlier, or just a little bit ago, I know it was tornado warned when it was on the Canadian side. So just continuing on. And then further to the south, they upgraded this one, whereas they're saying golf ball sized hail and 70 mile per hour winds. Moving southeast at about 40 miles per hour. Locations include Otter Tail Lake, Parker's Prairie, Battle Lake, Henning, Otter Tail, Deer Creek, and Clitheroe. And this guy's had quite a history. Back when it was going through Fargo, it had 2-inch to 1.5-inch hail as it was going through. So I think this is the same guy that just continues to move on. Now, the good thing is we've got some storms starting to surround it a little bit. So hopefully that'll help maybe dissipate some of the energy away from this guy so that he's maybe not quite as strong as we go a little bit in the next half hour to hour or so. But that's not to say that none of these guys that are firing up out ahead of it could become severe. That wouldn't be surprising. Got a little guy just north of Wahpeton popping up. Continue to have these areas north of Sioux Falls. It's had a history. They're saying 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail at this point. That's the latest on that one. So that one's been diminishing. That southern cell. Yeah, that one doesn't look quite as good as probably this one in southwest Minnesota. Had a history of 1 1/4 inch, 1 to 1 1/4 inch hail. Most recent history or reports coming out of there. Coming across Holland and Ruthven. The latest warning, the wording says golf ball sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. I'd say definitely ping pong for sure, still remaining within that, heading towards Lake Wilkes-Barre, Hadding, Slayton, Hatfield, Worthington. So continue to just keep an eye on this. These couple of cells for the next few hours here. It's had a pretty good history of continuing on here. Looks like we got a report to 1-inch hail north of Waldorf. Now heading to New Richland or through New Richland. So a few bigger ones, a few smaller ones, and then we've got our tornado warning up by Roseau. Probably just moving in or through Roseau at this point. Oh boy, look at this one. That got more interesting. That's that. Whew, wow, that's. I mean, that's dark. That's a dark cloud, man. Holy, I want to say a different words that start with B, but I held back. At any rate, whatever's there, that don't look like fun to drive through. So that is a damn nasty looking storm. No matter how you slice that one. Let's see, 1 1/4 inch hail. That might even be 1 1/2 inch hail by this point now. So Roseau, what was the other town? Malung, Salal, Fox, Hayes Lake State Park, Ross, and Pencer. Not 100% sure where that state park is. Even the Wadena, I don't know, what is that? The Perm cam up above me, it looks a little more interesting than it did earlier. Yeah, that looked angry. I'm gonna keep an eye on that cam as that continues to update. Hopefully it continues to update. I wish it was a video. I wish it was a video feed like you get down in the cities. Excuse me. 1-inch hail reported west of Ruthven in Pipestone County, Minnesota. $50 sized hail in Lincoln County by Lake Benton. In Stearns County, about 20 minutes ago, golf ball sized hail reported by the fire department in Belgrade. That's in Stearns County, Minnesota. They issued a new warning for that one cell, that far, far southern cell just north of Sioux Falls. 60-mile-per-hour winds and half-dollar sized hail. Moving southeast at 30 miles per hour. So that's this guy way down here. Heading towards Pipestone, or just south of Flandreau, east of Egan. So there's all our current warnings out at this point. And then kind of filled in within some of those warnings as well, there are special weather statements with a lot of these smaller ones in through here to where they're looking, just they're not quite meeting that severe mark. But a number of them are saying, 40, 50 mile per hour winds, maybe a 3/4 inch hail somewhere in there. So even though you might not be currently warned with this, just keep that in mind. You might still see some gusty winds or maybe even a little bit of hail in some of these. I don't have the right radar up currently for that one because I want to keep an eye on, obviously, this guy up by Roseau. Would be just southeast of Roseau at this time. So we'll probably pass through Roseau. I'd be curious to see or hear or know what went through up there. Here's the latest little screen grab up in Roseau. Pavement don't help. So if you are southeast of Roseau at this point, keep an eye on the sky there. Pencer. Still don't really know where that state park is that they mentioned, but I would think it must be somewhere within this region in through here. What the hell? What did they call it? Hayes Lake State Park. East of Wanaska. Okay. Somewhere in here. Pencer. Where's Pencer? So southeast of Pencer. Yeah, somewhere, within this region here is that state park. I don't know. That kind of stuff always concerns me because you got, obviously, you got campers out there. You got people who are in tents and fifth wheel, he knows what that's all about. And that's always something that concerns me. I remember being out camping as a kid, and that's the time when I worried the most because you just didn't feel 100% safe when you're out camping and something like this is coming. Pencer, that state park just southeast of Pencer. Be on the lookout for this particular storm as it moves southeast. There was a funnel cloud reported with it earlier. This is valid until 7 p.m. Central Time, so for about another 25 minutes here. Appreciate y'all for checking in. Just if you haven't been here before, first time finding it, Region Weather Live, I cover exclusively the Dakotas and Minnesota only. So that's basically why I'm not looking at Nebraska, Iowa. I know there's a bunch of other stuff going on. A lot of times this is the area I grew up, worked, lived in, all that kind of fun stuff. So I kind of keep to this. And also, a lot of these areas, they don't always get talked about. They lose a lot of their coverage. The news guys, they don't have the coverage. They don't have anybody looking out for them. So, multiple reasons for doing this the way I'm doing it. But if you're ever looking for weather information across the Dakotas and Minnesota, 12 months a year, man, I'm looking over and watching as best I can. This is a part-time deal for me, so I try to be here as much or as quick as I can. Sometimes it's a little more difficult just depending on the day, because I do have a full-time job doing something else. But when things arise, I try to get on and be live as much as I can. If you haven't done so already, then, as is customary on the YouTube channel, make sure you nail that like button down below. That helps this channel get found. Also, share it. If you know of anybody that lives in the Dakotas and Minnesota, hit the like button, share it. That way people can find this channel. Maybe you got loved ones. Maybe you don't live there, but you got some loved ones around there. Let them know, because obviously this would probably be a pretty good channel to have at your disposal. And like I think Fifth Wheel said earlier, some people are enthusiasts and some people are just chicken. And I know both hands. I know, and some are just curious. I know a lot of people in both camps. Yeah, the camera is starting to lose a little bit of its appeal. So that's the same camera. It doesn't really hard to say what exactly it is looking at. We know the road is wet by looking at these cams. That's for sure. The road is wet. It is not freezing. We don't have to worry about that. We're not talking about the S word. Shut up, Scott. We're not talking about the S word. We're talking about rain. And we continue to, if you're southeast of Roseau, northwest of Pencer, let's see if it even looks like it did earlier. Come on. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to see. I mean, this is looking, that's so far away from the radar. The base is looking at 12,000 feet in the air. I mean, that's a ways up there. So it's really difficult for the radar to see exactly what's going on. So just because we're not seeing the best rotation show up on this, I'm definitely gonna defer to the Weather Service and their reporters and their spotters on this one. About 7 minutes ago. Oh, come on, update. Yeah, the wording. I was gonna say they had an update on it, but the wording was all the same still. So, yeah, Roseau Pencer, coming up to, at this point, coming up to Malung, Hayes Lake State Park. Make sure you guys are taking cover now with this particular storm. As long as the tornado warning's out there, we're just going to continue to just kind of hit it home until the Weather Service decides otherwise, just because, like I said, really, really hard to discern based on the radar what exactly is going on out there. I mean, there is some rotation going on. Now, normally that wouldn't be, you take a look at that and you go, well, that's not really strong rotation. Well, geez, you're looking 12,000 feet in the air. So you're not maybe going to have as tight a rotation as maybe you would be used to seeing. So yeah, other than the tornado warning, how's everybody else doing? No, I don't think you're going to blow away tonight. All right, getting back to some of these other warnings. South of Wadena, continue to have this severe thunderstorm warning. 2-inch hail and 70 mile per hour winds is the latest on that bugger. Moving southeast at 40 miles per hour. Golf ball size hail was reported 7 miles west of Henning earlier. Other locations include Ottertail Lake, Parker's Prairie, Battle Lake, Henning, Ottertail, Deer Creek, and Clitherdale. Now, I will say at that point, yeah, doesn't look quite as strong as it did earlier. So I would think the wording probably is going to lighten up a little bit to maybe not quite the golf ball anymore, because where this report showed up, you can see where that storm obviously was quite hefty at the time. And it has since diminished. So we'll say more closer to an inch or so. So maybe not quite a big a hail. We've got this guy here northwest of Albany, right along I-94. We had a report of a quarter-sized hail earlier. They are saying golf ball sized hail possible with 60 mile per hour winds moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. I'll have to switch radars for that one. We will flip down to the Minneapolis radar for just a quick little bit. North of Mankato, coming up to St. Peter, Cosada. Severe thunderstorm warning. We'll move down. Ping pong ball sized hail, 60 mile per hour winds, moving southeast at 35. Remain in mainly rural areas, but to include Oshawa. So traverse St. Peter, Cosota, and it looks like probably impinging on North Mankato, Mankato-ish eventually, Madison Lake. Yeah, I would say you probably continue to have an inch to an inch and a half in diameter hail running across there. So St. Peter, Cosota, Mankato, North Mankato, Madison Lake, Eagle Lake, be watching for this storm. Further to the south, Clark's Grove, Hollandale. I would think south of Waseca's probably got at least 1 to 1.5 inch hail with that particular storm. Otisco, Hope. Be watching out, even though there's not nothing showing up. I would think probably worth keeping an eye on this storm as this one heads down to the southeast. Clark's Grove, Hollandale, Hayward, Oakland as well. And then back closer to Sioux Falls. Yeah, that southern one is really starting to fall apart, so that doesn't look as good. Well, that's good. So For those of you down in Worthington, at least at the moment, not looking quite as big, the hail anyway. You might still see some small stuff. You might still see a severe thunderstorm warning come out of this. But not looking quite as nasty as it was earlier, so that's good. So it looks like those are trending the right way. Looks like Roseau had a report of 1.25 inches hail by a trained spotter. This tornado warning set to expire in about 14 minutes roughly. We'll see what they wind up doing with that. Definitely still some hail coming out of that. So I fully expect there to be a severe thunderstorm warning at the very least out of this guy. Just not confident in what they'll do with the tornado warning. Let's see here. Yeah, and the latest, there's the latest. You can see the, basically the front, the leading edge of the storm now past the cameras, further to the south. The road is wet. That is confirmed. Well, welcome, Rapid Revenge. No, yeah. That's why I do this. That's why I cover the Dakotas and Minnesota, because, it's hard to jump on for every severe weather event across the country. And the bigger guys, they're only going to cover the big events. So, which leaves an open door for maybe more localized areas, which is what I do. I can't get on, like I said a little bit earlier, I can't get on all the time. I do have a full-time job. I do this on the side, so I jump on here when I can. Thankfully, the tornado warnings waited until I got home today. If there are bigger events expected, I will usually plan my work around that, knowing full well I'll have to get off early. But days like today, where I guess expecting more just the severe thunderstorm warnings, wasn't too concerned about it. But obviously, a couple of surprise tornado warnings out there today. We had one down by Fertile earlier, southeast of Grand Forks, and now this guy just past Roseau, north of Pencer. Just coming up to, what is it? Hayes Lake State Park. Moving southeast at about 30 miles per hour, roughly. At the very least, we've got some good sized hail, inch to inch, a half hail associated with that. Hard to really determine. I mean, there still appears to be a little bit of rotation, which obviously is always expected when you have some good sized hail. There's always going to be some rotation with that, but there was a report of a funnel cloud earlier with this storm, so that's why they issued a tornado warning. And also before this storm entered into Minnesota, was in the Canadian territories there, I saw there was a tornado warning out earlier with this exact cell. So it has a history of producing at least a funnel cloud. up in Roseau County. So this is just southeast of Roseau. Otherwise, we're expecting basically all these storms to just continue on here through the remainder of the evening. And we'll probably continue to see scattered stuff within this region. Seld's kind of moving southeast at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. The line itself moving east, roughly 20 miles per hour. So I'd say some of these are going to be starting to make their way into the West Metro here within an hour or so. Now we'll see if they're able to maintain some of their intensities. Like some of these have had some golf ball sized hail reported or near that. Some of these have just other ones, the ones in between here, between St. Peter and St. Cloud, probably just got some small hail, and that's really all they've been so far. As we go a little deeper into the evening, we're going to lose some heating. It's going to be a tough call, really, as far as the Twin Cities go. I guess for now, I would expect some of these storms to just plan on some of these rougher storms to make it into the Twin Cities area. I think it'll be close, but for now, we'll plan on some of these storms running through. Okay, further to the north, we got about 8 minutes left roughly on this tornado warning. Sorry, just checking a couple things here. Checking in on Radar Omega, there is within this pink area severe thunderstorm watches out until about midnight roughly. I would think the South Dakota end is pretty much done. I don't think we're going to be concerned about South Dakota anymore. Pretty much relegated now to the Minnesota side of things. Again, that watch just bumping up against the far western metro. It says until midnight it's going to be running through. If it makes it that far, or if the severe storms make it that far, I think probably definitely see some storms run through. I have a hard time determining right now whether they'll be severe. So that's why I said there's a possibility that they'll be severe. I can't say no. So just keep an eye on these storms as they run through. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'm just saying you'll probably hear some rumbles of thunder roll through the Twin Cities area. Just keep an eye on, listen to the radio or whatever you've got, and just see if anybody's reporting anything, or if there's a severe thunderstorm warning that comes out. Not expecting it to be tornadic, if anything. You might have 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter hail, 60 mile per hour winds with these particular storms as they run across the area. Everybody north of St. Cloud, everybody north of I-94 pretty much has lost their severe thunderstorm warning. The only thing we've got is this tornado warning up by Roseau County. So just north of Pencer at this point. And I think that state park, like I said, I'm always concerned about state parks. People are camping out in their tents, their campers, just a little more vulnerable than if you're in a town or in your home or in a business even. That always makes me nervous. So I guess if you got anybody, know anybody in the Haynes Lake State Park, I think is what it was called. Hayes Lake State Park. Just might want to let them know there's a severe thunderstorm warning coming. There was a report of a funnel cloud earlier. We got about another 4 minutes. We'll see what the Weather Service winds up doing. If they continue the tornado warning or not. About 10 minutes ago, there was ping pong ball-sized hail reported in Otter Tail County, 3 east-northeast of Clitherdall. Clitherall. Gosh, I've always wanted to say Clitherdall. I keep wanting to say, but it's Clitherall. Of course. Yep. Yeah, I saw there was one way down in southern Wisconsin as well. But I stick to the Dakotas and Minnesota exclusively. That's just my area. So hopefully someday, just God willing, eventually, maybe if things eventually develop or get bigger or whatever, that can expand to where the region becomes different, or I have different regions, perhaps Dakotas and Minnesota, and then I'm covering, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, or maybe it turns into Dakotas, Montana, and then Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. I don't know. Many years down the road, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if I'll survive that long? So yeah, if you're looking for that type of product, make sure you get more people to follow along, so that we can continue to let this channel grow and then make it bigger and expand out into the other areas. All right. Well, I don't see any other warning out. They say Fargo has expired their tornado warning. In fact, they're not even issuing at the moment. There's not even a severe thunderstorm warning out for that. Which I guess, looking at it, it has diminished in intensity. We've got another guy a little bit further back, perhaps. That's heading more towards Badger Greenbush. BGMR towards the Gatorland. That's not talking about Florida. That's their mascot. Badger Greenbush Middle River, BGMR. Looks like probably some storms heading your direction, probably with perhaps some 1-inch hail associated with that. Nothing severe warned at the moment, but just again something to keep an eye out for. This guy up by Pencer, not as severe looking, not as robust, and so they let all the warnings expire up there. So we'll keep an eye on that, but for now, pretty much everything is south of I-94, heading towards the Twin Cities area, heading towards the I-35 corridor. Southwest is Minnesota. A lot of these have been downgraded compared to where they were. Some of these were up to golf ball size. Now they're $half sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Heading southeast, they're saying 45 miles per hour. So some of these are booking, man. They're moving 30, 40, 45 miles per hour. So they're gonna come up on you quick. They're gonna be here and gone. But in the meantime, they might be dropping, $half sized hail while they're at it. So that's 1.25 inch hail. Not bad. Some wind gusts associated with it as well. Then further east of there, crossing I-35. Let me see if they give me mile markers. They do not. But coming up to Hope, Ellendale, Geneva, Bloomin' Prairie, Pixby, just east of Otisco. Looks like there was a couple reports of 1-inch hail. So some hail associated with those. Sliding just north of Mankato, between Mankato and St. Peter. I've got a storm in through there. Looks like that's maybe diminishing a little bit as well. Still some small hail definitely associated with that. Perhaps some gusty winds. In fact, let's take a look at that. Yeah, probably some gusty winds associated with it. But Just as some of these have had a history of pulsating, meaning they'll diminish for a bit, so they don't look as strong now. But then all of a sudden they'll catch on to something. They'll catch a little updraft and they'll increase for a while. So not quite completely through with this just yet. But for now, it looks like the intensity has gone down some. And now northwest of the Twin Cities, coming up to Kingston, Dassel, Cokato, and Howard Lake eventually, south of Annandale. 60 mile per hour winds and $half sized hail. Yeah, probably definitely inch to inch and a half in there. That's actually not a bad cell here south of St. Cloud, coming up to Forest City, Kingston, Dassel. This is northwest of the cities here, and then along I-94. Actually, just got a report of 1 3/4 inches by Albany in Stearns County. So some pretty good hail falling out of this bugger. Coming up to St. Cloud. Boy, you wouldn't think I'd looking at some of the things here, but I got a little bit of rotation in, so that's always a good sign when it comes to hail anyway. Actually, a decent little couplet in with this. I mean, not crazy, but I mean that's not bad. So considering what we're seeing on the radar, definitely some good hail falling out of this. Some rotation, so keep an eye on that. Some rotation here just northwest of St. Cloud, just south of the I-94 corridor, south of Avon. Had a report of 1 3/4 inch or 1 3/4 inch hail. So at the very least, seeing some good hailers out of these couple storms northwest of the Twin Cities. So that's heading your direction essentially. Anywhere from between, like I said, they're hauling butt. They're 30, 40 mile per hour for the most part. So here you can see by the time the core kind of reaches the metro area, we're about an hour out, so closer to that 8 o'clock. Maybe it's going to be 8:30 by the time this storm reaches the metro, the actual metro area. And roughly about the same with that guy as well. Definitely worth keeping an eye. Just keeping a little bit of an eye on this. Some rotation in with that, of course. Mentioning some of the larger hail associated with it, not surprising. You got rotation, you got hail, you got some rotation with it. Okay, and they did put a severe thunderstorm warning out for this guy further to the north. Coming up to again Gatorland, BGMR Gators. Watch out, Badger Greenbush. We've got a storm heading your direction, heading southeast at about 30. 1 inch hail, they're saying at this point. Also be on the lookout for flash flooding. And there's my dog. Coming across to Watauga, Hayward, Albert Lee, all kinds of fun stuff. Mankato. Trained weather spotters reported 2 inch hail near Kasota. Probably just south of Kasota. 2 inch hail and 60 mile per hour winds. So, as I just said, I didn't really think that was that vigorous at the point. Looking at a couple things. But apparently there was a report of some pretty decent sized hail near Kasota. Maybe that was back a little bit. Maybe it was when it was a little bit further back. Nevertheless, Keep an eye on this Madison Lake, Eagle Lake, Janesville. Manana, east of Manana, northwest of Forest City. Just some rotation going on there, south of Avon. A little bit, not quite as vigorous as it was in the previous scan, but nonetheless, probably got some decent hail associated with that. Got just a slight appendage with this guy. Mankato. Yeah, this one, that one's not looking quite as good. Neither is this guy. These two further south look a little sickly. So maybe not quite as vigorous, but we'll see what they wind up doing here. They expire at 7:30. Ping pong ball sized hail with this guy. 60 mile per hour winds is the latest, moving southeast at 35. It does, in the little bit of warning, it says tornado possible. So hail to 1.5 inch and 60 mile per hour winds possible with this storm. So obviously they are taking a look at the rotation in there and going, we're putting out a severe thunderstorm warning, but just let's just say let's keep an eye on this one. This one's let's keep your left eye or your right eye or whatever eye is your best eye. As it comes up to Forest City, be watching out for this particular storm. It's got a little bit of rotation in with that. Wouldn't be surprised if you see a bit of a wall cloud. Coming up to Forest City, north of Litchfield and Kingston. At the very least, we got some 1.5, probably 1.5 inch hail roughly. And the only other warning really north of I-94 is way up by Greenbush, where we got 1 inch hail heading your direction. I think my webcam up above is stuck. Something's not right. Doesn't seem right anyway. All right, it's a little better. That might, well, I don't know if Scott's on. I think Scott went off. Rapid Revenge, I don't think you can. This isn't radar Omega. They reissued severe thunderstorm warning out here. Ping pong ball sized hail, 60 mile per hour winds moving southeast at 40. Waite Park at 7:15, Sartell at 7:20, Sauk Rapids 7:25, St. Cloud at 7:30. Other locations include Clearwater, Clear Lake, and Becker. One thing I like about South Dakota, or at least the Rapid City one, is they tell you the mile markers. So 1.5 inch hail, 60 mile per hour winds heading southeast at 40 miles per hour with this guy here. Coming up to St. Joseph, Sauk Rapids. Keeping our left eye on the rotating dude down by Forest City. Not quite as good as it was earlier, but still just some rotation in with that. Wilmot, Reading, Worthington. 60 mile per hour winds, 1.5 inch hail, moving southeast at 45. So Wilmot in about 15 minutes, Reading, Worthington, roughly half hour, Brewster, 45 minutes, Lakefield, Round Lake, Lake Park within an hour. And then with this guy, Laverne within 15 minutes, Magnolia about a half hour, Adrian, Kanamazari, Ellsworth, Rushmore about 45 minutes or so. Then within the hour, this cell should be moving out into Iowa. But they've got some pretty good wording, 2 inch hail and 60 mile per hour winds associated with that one. That one's moving southeast at about 35 miles per hour. Laverne, Blue Mountain State Park, at about 7:20. Other locations include Adrian, Ellsworth, and Rushmore. We had a report of 1 3/4 inch in Pipestone County and near Jasper by a train spotter. So some pretty, again, kind of like I was saying earlier, sometimes they diminish and sometimes they, and then all of a sudden they find a little pocket that they begin to increase again. These guys were kind of on the way down. Now they're found a little bit of gusto again as they're heading down across to I-90 here across southwest parts of Minnesota. Yeah, the truck was moving very jerky, so that's why it was. I was kind of wondering if it wasn't doing what it was supposed to, but that particular cam is way up here, and obviously looking, I believe this direction, if I remember which way that thing points. So it's just kind of interesting what it's actually showing up there on that camera, because it's really nothing nearby. This is a traffic cam, I-94 near St. John's Road. Kind of poke around at some of these cams here and see what east of County Road 9, for those of you who know the area. Just east of Avon. This is I-94 eastbound, east of Opportunity Drive. This is kind of coming up to Clearwater, roughly. So this would be looking back to the northwest, I believe. No, I don't. No. Tornado warning. Your question, the only thing I see is a small one in far northern Illinois. So latest severe thunderstorm warning, they did reduce this down a little bit to $half sized hail. So 1 1/4 inch hail, basically 60 mile per hour winds moving southeast at about 30 miles per hour. Be around Janesville at 7:25, Pemberton at 7:30. Other locations include Waseca. That's 1 to 1 1/4 inch hail with that guy. This one down here, not looking near as robust. This expires at 7:30, so we'll see what happens in about another 12 minutes or so. There's just not much going on. I would think they'll, my guess would be is they'd probably just issue a weather statement with these down there, because it looks like they're not, maybe not quite meeting the warning criteria. We'll see how the rotation is with our buddy up here. We got to keep a left eye on this. Not looking quite as good as it was earlier, so that's good. Still some decent hail possibly with this. Perhaps 2 inch hail and 60 mile per hour winds. This was issued 7:17, so a couple minutes ago. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 7:45. 2 inch hail possible, 60 mile per hour wind. Moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. Locations impacted include Litchfield, Annandale, Dassel, French Lake, Forest City, Darwin, and Litchfield Airport. For your protection, move in an interior room and lowest floor of a building. Again, still has the wording of a possible tornado in, and there again, that's just the wording in there because there is some rotation being indicated with this. Normalized rotation, obviously showing some of that nicely on there. Hey, make sure if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the like button down below. And also share this page. That way more people continue to find this, just in case they're looking for information. Maybe they're traveling through the area, live, work, play, whatever their reason might be. But just do me a favor, nail that like button down below. Hit the thumbs up. That's all you got to do. It doesn't require anything. You don't have to pay for anything. just hit the like button, and that would just, even just doing that makes me happy. But it also helps the YouTube algorithm, and helps kind of go, hey, a lot of people seem to be liking this page, so I think I'm going to go ahead and share it among other people. Maybe other people are going to like it as well. And yes, I would very much like it if you subscribed. I appreciate that. Do that as well. Hit the bell button beside it once you do subscribe, because that way you'll be alerted when I'm on live. And I also put out forecast videos. Haven't done as much in the summer just because there hasn't been, I don't know, any widespread big storms. There's just been a lot of these types of scenarios going on. But when the bigger events come, I definitely will have a video out. I'll have videos out all throughout the winter to keep you up to date with the latest across the Dakotas and Minnesota. So if you're looking for a different place to find your weather information, make sure you subscribe. And eventually what I'm going to do just depends on how things shake out here. But I do kind of have an automated, this page sort of automated in a way too, to where it just kind of scrolls and keeps you updated with the latest warnings. But there has been another severe thunderstorm warning with this guy up by Badger, Greenbush. Haven't poked up there in a little bit. So a news cell that popped up. So this guy's moving through Greenbush at this time. Doesn't look quite as hefty as it did earlier. So perhaps Gatorland, you might skate by. But then this guy really popped up and has got some beef to it. She's got some juice. Coming up to Skimmy? I don't know. That must be, I've never died. No idea how to pronounce that one. Moving southeast at 20 miles per hour. Quarter-sized hail. Locations include Wanaska, Casperson, Skyme, and Torfin. To report severe weather, contact your nearest law enforcement agency. They will send a report to the National Weather Service here in up in Grand Forks. Torrential rainfall is also occurring with this storm. May lead to flash flooding. Do not drive your vehicle through flooded roadways. Good suggestion, Grand Forks Weather Service. So a couple areas with some hail. Looks like this guy is south of Wanaska, probably taken over a little bit north of Grigla. Not a big population, obviously, up there, up in northwest Minnesota. But a fair amount of farms. So be watching out for some hail coming your direction up there. Well, and silly me, they did put a severe thunderstorm warning out for this one. 60 mile per hour wind. They're still saying $half sized hail. Moving east at about 45 miles per hour for southern Steele County and south central Minnesota, including Steele Center and Bixby. So 1 1/4 inch hail and 60 mile per hour wind. Something's... Yeah, the good news is rotation with this guy has definitely gone the right way. So that's good. St. Cloud. Not looking near as robust as it was earlier. And then you continue to have this guy down by Laverne, Magnolia, Adrian, Kanzaranzi, Ellsworth, Rushmore. We'll include Lismore, Wilmot, Reading, Worthington. Looks like these cells are kind of merging together now. This has been a pretty decent storm. Was all the way back a couple of these. This guy was back northeast of Brookings. This one was southwest of Brookings, and they've kind of curved their way down to the southeast. Now they look like they're finally meeting up and are getting married for once. I myself am located up here, East Grand Forks, Minnesota. So North Dakota, Minnesota, that's where I'm based out of. But I cover exclusively the Dakotas and Minnesota. This is where we're looking at Minnesota right now. I guess maybe that's one thing I haven't had up there recently. Because not everybody knows where we're looking at. This is Minnesota. This is these storms are kind of approaching eastern parts of Minnesota. Most of these coming up to the Twin Cities area. Most of the severe thunderstorm warnings are along and south of I-94. With the exception of these guys way up in Roseau, Marshall, and Beltrami County. Don't you hate it when work pages you, Scott? Oh, what am I looking for here? Webcams. Minnesota. Come on. Yeah, occasionally you're going to see a commercial here. I can't help that. But this will be the St. Paul webcam popping up eventually. Here's a good shot. This is southeast of Clearwater. Looking back kind of northwestish. Hey, what are you seeing, Christopher? So this will be close to you. If Clearwater, man, if you ever are going up and down I-94, it's not really a well-kept secret anymore. But Clearwater has got a really, really good truck stop. Big cookies. Big cookies, chocolate chip, any kind of chocolate chip. They got variety, but I know they got big chocolate chip cookies, and they're not like hard. Like they're good, soft. They've got just nice sandwiches there. They've got a good deli there that's nice to have, nice to eat. And they've got a restaurant. I haven't been at the restaurant in quite a while, but when we used to go, I know they've got good food. But yeah, Clearwater, like I said, maybe not so much a secret like it used to be, the Clearwater truck stop. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little, Rogers, it's a little bit of ways yet, isn't it? Yep. Yeah, you're way down here. This guy that was showing some rotation earlier sure does not show anything now. So things are trending the right way when it comes to severe weather. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it here for maybe a half hour. See if things continue to trend the right way. And if so, I don't know. I'll probably just turn it over to the automated mode. That's a tall, skinny building the way I've got that on there. That just looks odd. Because, if it's not real severe, I mean, it doesn't pay for me to just continue to sit here and talk about it to when it's just your normal 1-inch hail or whatever. Not to mention, it's running into more of a metro area. So, there's way, way more coverage as you get into the Twin Cities. Now, if it looks a little more dangerous looking, or if it looks like it might ramp up, or maybe there's some rotation in, I'll make sure to jump back onto the camera. But we'll stay on it for a little bit here and just make sure that it is indeed trending downward. Tim, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. That's, it is St. Cloud, Minnesota. Sorry, I'm reading the chats here. I'm not sure what Father Nick Gaming says. It is not as St. Cloud. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I appreciate that because that stuff drives me nuts, and I get it from an unfortunate YouTube algorithm standpoint. And that's one thing I don't do, and that's one thing I have a hard time growing because I don't use those buzzwords. I just don't, and I think why I don't. I have a degree in meteorology. I've worked as a meteorologist. I worked for Northwest Airlines back in the day. For those of you that have been on here from the beginning, you're probably sick of me telling you this, but because you've heard it from me many times. But worked for Northwest Airlines. Worked for a private company up here in Grand Forks that did road weather information. They developed the 511.org, the 511 network that you might see online. So I've worked professionally as a meteorologist, and saying, this could happen. There could be a tornado. There could be a hurricane, drives me crazy, because if you did that professionally, if you did that in a professional setting, you'd be fired. You would be fired within a week. And that's not how I want it to roll. I want you to come on, and I want you to know you're going to get the facts from me. I'm not going to blow it out of proportion. I'll say some of the guys, when they are on live, they're a lot better there because they're trying to say it as it is. So when they're on live, it is better. But they still like to use the buzzwords when it comes to their descriptions and stuff like that. Or when it comes to their forecasts. When it comes to my forecasts, unless there's something, I always say, if I put some big wording on, then you know something big is coming. Then you better watch out, because I don't do it, and I refuse to do it. So there's my lecture. There's my soapbox that I get on once in a while. And like I said, who's on here? Scott, Downtown Hermit. They're probably tired of me saying it, but that's, that's my, what do you want to call it? Motto. That's my business motto right now. I'm not saying what these other guys do are bad. I'm not saying it's invaluable or it's not valuable. They do a good job. But yeah, Gorilla Hail. I like to use glacial, sometimes I have a hard time saying it, glacial grenades. How about that? That's my fun word. This is near Clearwater again. I think it's a little more southeast from what we were looking at before. Could maybe call that a wall cloud. Don't know if it's rotating. Hard to tell. I can't imagine it is from what I'm seeing on the radar, but interesting little feature there nonetheless. This is I-94 around County Road 8. This is near Hasty, if you know where that is. Exit. I can't find the exit. Don't know what exit number. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'll Scott, just on Twitter, just I know you've taken a few pictures lately. Just shoot me a DM if it's okay to post those on like the Facebook page and YouTube and stuff later on. I'll give you credit, obviously. So a new severe thunderstorm warning for Wright, Meeker, McLeod, and Carver counties. Golf ball sized hail, 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Moving southeast at 40 miles per hour. This will be around Cokato at 740, Howard Lake at 750. Other locations include Montrose, Winstead, Lester Prairie, Watertown, and Mayer. So for your protection, move to an interior room in the lowest floor of a building. This storm is producing large hail, so make sure you seek shelter. 1 3/4 inch hail, they're saying observed. And 60 mile per hour winds. They took out the tornado wording that they had in there earlier. Yeah, oh boy, yeah, that's a good sell heading towards Dassel and Cokato, Howard Lake. That's a beast. That's a good one. Even though there's not the best rotation showing up, I'm going to bet there's some rotation when the hail size is that big. So that's valid until 8:15. So a little over half hour. Years ago, my youngest was 5. Took her on a storm chase. Pretty much knew there was nothing going on, but it was southeast of Grand Forks. It was kind of developed once it passed Grand Forks. Took her with. She fell asleep in the back car. Fell asleep in the back seat. So they let this severe thunderstorm warning go here just to southeast of St. Cloud. Let's see if there's not even a weather statement with that one. Let's see. Continue to have these guys way up north. Can't forget about you guys up in Roseau. Roseau, Marshall, and Beltrami counties. South of Skyme, moving southeast at 20, quarter-sized hail. Wanaska, Casper, Skyme, and Torfin in the path of this particular storm. So yeah, that one's still chugging along just north of Grigla. Gosh, BGMR Gators. What is Grigla? Oh my gosh. Goodridge. Oh my Lord. I should know this. I'm sorry. This is our sports territory up here. This is where our sports teams go to visit. Goodridge, Grigla. I am blanking on their mascot. That is silly. Anyhow, way up here in northwest parts of Minnesota, continue to see some 1-inch hail up and through there. Don't need that this time of year, especially for a lot of these guys. We just need rain. We don't want the hail. Farmers, they don't want the hail. Some of these, the wheat out there is starting to turn. It's starting to get a little bit golden. And that's really not good when it does that and it begins to hail, because it just knocks everything out. It knocks all the wheat out of the heads when it turns into that golden amber color. Maybe not as bad when it's still green. They're still a little flexible. There's still some give. Not so much when it turns golden. Granted, they're not completely golden, but they're starting to turn. At any rate, farmers are not wanting this. Looks like we've got reports of trees down in Cokato in Wright County. So some winds starting to pick up out of this as well. So winds, some big hail, big time hail, glacial grenades, gorilla hail, whatever you want to call them. We've got a big storm heading towards Howard Lake, Weaverly, Cokato. A couple of south of the cities, either side of the I-35 corridor. Nothing too major on the east side. A little bit stronger on the south side. Just got a report of 1-inch hail south of Janesville and Waseca County. So this guy's still packing a little bit of a punch, heading towards Ortisco. They just got hit a little bit earlier ago from this guy, so now they've got another storm running through. So more hail coming for you guys in Ortisco. Probably just skimming New Richland, heading towards Ellendale, perhaps Hope, Geneva. Like I said, this guy's kind of on its way out a little bit at the time, but this one over here is getting a little more reinvigorated. So we'll have to keep an eye on this over here by Dodge Center. Yeah, some decent updrafts still with a couple of those. They're not done yet. And then this down in far south. Ooh, we got a 2.5-inch report. Wow. A 2.5-inch report in Magnolia, way down in southwestern parts of Minnesota, Rock County. That's a big one. Whoo, boy. Let's click over to Sioux Falls radar. That's a big hail. That's a good size hailstone. So yeah, if you're Adrian, Rushmore, Bigelow, looks like it's gonna just slide northeast of Ellsworth, perhaps. But here's the other thing. Obviously, we got to take a look at. Big hail means rotation. Some rotation going on in there. Come on, don't fail on me. Yeah, somewhere within that updraft, there's going to be some rotation with that 2.5-inch hail. That's big. Let's see if I can't find a camera down there. Nope, no such luck. Not a good one, anyway. 2.5. That's a good size for this area. No, not photograph doesn't show anything as far as like it's just not real conducive of tornadic activity. We've got a lot of unidirectional movement essentially. Now, the one thing it does have, given the storm motion, moving fairly rapidly, southeast at about 40. You've got some small, low-level rotation going on, but it's not deep. So given the storms are moving so quick to the southeast, you've kind of got your natural southeast inflow, but once you get above 1 kilometer, essentially everything is now heading in the same direction after that. We re-upped a couple of these up here. Okay, well, this one came back. Golf ball size hail, 60 mile per hour winds moving east at 45. This will be around Becker at 7:55, Monticello at 8. Other locations include Big Lake, Zimmerman, Elk River, and Ramsey. And then further back, not to be outdone, way back, south of Sauk Center, near Belgrade. 60 mile per hour wind and $50 sized hail, moving east at 45. Pope, Stearns, and Kandiyohi counties. This will be in Belgrade at 7:55. Other locations include Paynesville. They did finally let this one go closer to Blooming Prairie. Still got the one south of Waseca, heading towards Ellendale, heading towards I-35. Oh, wow. Glad he's okay, Nathan. Truck is not, I would imagine not. Oh, take care there, squirrel. Keeping a different radar keeping the Sioux Falls radar. Keeping an eye on the Sioux Falls radar, if I could talk right. Nothing showing up when it comes to no strong rotation evident, put it that way. This one will be interesting to see if it continues on with its current. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty, that one definitely has increased here. Just once it got to the other side of St. Cloud. Heading down towards Clear Lake, Becker, Clearwater. Let's see. Let's zoom in on my friend Clearwater. I'm just trying to find webcams, better webcams. A little bit of a shower thunderstorm now running through the southwest metro. That sale really just wasn't quite done yet. Hey, thank you, Nathan, for becoming a member. Appreciate it very much. Welcome. That is awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah. No, I do not. I'm pretty unknown at this point in the weather world. So no, I haven't talked to him. But yes, I know he is from the cities. Good guy, just good for him for, I always think at his age, for being young like that, it's a great thing to come into when you can become a YouTube, if you will. Now, I don't know if you designate him as a sensation along with Ryan Hall, but I will say that's what it takes. You got to be young. That definitely helps. And especially I'd say to be single also helps. I don't know how some of these storm chasers do it that are married, but they do it. Golf ball size hail 60 mile per hour winds. This is far southwestern parts of Minnesota, moving southeast at 40. Little Rock at 805. Other locations include Sibley, Ashton, Shelby, and Melvin. So just about on its way out into Iowa. And then it's going to become Iowa's problem. Whoever wants to cover Iowa, go ahead and take it. Not me. Not yet. We do have the one lone guy. Oh, no, we don't. Yes, we do. Way northeast of Grigla. Continues to have some hail associated with that. 1 inch hail possible with those guys. I don't think that's probably going to last a whole lot longer. I would say within an hour, this, or less, depending on what they do with this, because this severe thunderstorm ends, why can I never find it, until 8:30, so half hour. So at least another half hour, we'll have a warning up there. Will its storms diminish? You got a couple persistent ones. I guess, as I've said earlier, that's a tough one. I'll say no, but whether it runs through the whole Twin Cities area, I don't know, because this one's kind of heading towards the South Metro. This one's kind of heading more towards the north, or might even miss it to the north. So then all you've got left at the moment is what will happen with this guy. But even this one might be tracking in the same way as this guy is. So given the movement of everybody, the only chance here is with this appendage here, and see how that continues on. So you might have a double barrel coming to the Southwest Metro. You've got this guy coming across the far north. So it's just a matter of what kind of happens in between here. I get like John Madden after a while with all my writing, so I apologize for that. I can't do the voice. And so what you got here? No, I'm not even going to try. The hell with that. I'll just embarrass myself. One lone guy south of the Twin Cities still. Who knows how to pronounce this? Atisco? Is it Atisco? 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 A tisket? A basket? A tasket? A trisket? One more call. Please help. Please hit the like button. At the very least, just hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so yet. Appreciate that. That helps the YouTube algorithm pick me up a little bit easier. And that way, if anybody else is looking for weather information out there, they'll be able to find me. Please become at least a subscriber. That way you know whenever I am on live, you should be notified, especially if you hit the bell button down beside it. Once you hit subscribe, I'll be on live as much as I can. I do work a full-time job alongside this, so I try to do this as much as I can. Sometimes it doesn't always allow me to as much as I can or as quick as I can. Sometimes I put up what I call automated mode, where you have the NOAA weather radio, and then you've got a little ticker down below showing you what the latest severe weather announcements are, again, for the Dakotas and Minnesota. But then I also put out videos, especially for larger events, severe weather events across the area. I'll make sure and put out videos. And then in the wintertime, I'm here 12 months a year. I've got all kinds of videos out there, put them out. So if you're looking for another form of weather information forecast, I do have a meteorology background, believe it or not. Maybe not so much a public speaking background, but I got a meteorology background. Maybe not so much a broadcaster voice. Why? Why are you doing this? Still pretty good hailer up there. East of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Again, we're looking at Minnesota in case you just kind of popped in here and we're like, where the heck are you? We're looking at Minnesota. particularly southern Minnesota, kind of along I-94 and southward for the most part. This is east of Clear Lake. This will be coming up to Becker Big Lake. Hit that button again. Yeah, kind of running down. I believe this is 10, if I remember right. Highway 10 running down to Becker, Big Lake, towards Elk River, Nowthen. This guy down here, Watertown, St. Boniface, Victoria, Waconia, Mound. Eventually heading towards Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Wayzata, Edina, St. Louis Park. So that southwest metro area. I might be seeing some hail out of this guy. Your north metro, probably be seeing some hail out of that guy. Coming down Elk River, Ramsey, Anoka, Shoreview, Lionel Lakes. And then again, the southwest metro might get hit with this guy that's running through Belgrade at this point. And then just north of Albert Lee, crossing I-35 at this point, heading towards Blooming Prairie. Probably some 1.25 inch hail associated with that guy. And then a big one that reported 2.5 inch hail, just starting to make its way into Iowa. So we'll let Andy Hill cover that one. Speaking of somebody else out of my region, as I said, hopefully someday, God willing, if I'm allowed to grow, if things go the right direction, maybe we can, eventually expand out to other areas. But I'm trying to keep it regional, thus the name Regional Weather Live. Yeah, I think Scott, when the rains moved through, jacked up our dew points pretty quickly. So, and honestly, after they went through, it felt a lot warmer than it did before. I know it's a trough moving through, but it felt more like a warm front because it felt warmer once the storms went through here and more humid. So yeah, there's a little more cape around here. Oh, my glasses. So I think my timing was pretty close. The one model was saying 9-10 o'clock, which I thought earlier, but then after starting to look at it, I said, 7:30, 8 o'clock might be closer. And yeah, just starting to reach that part of the metro now. Talking about the timing and when it might reach the Twin Cities area, or at least the metro. Continue to have a severe thunderstorm watch out until midnight. Looks like, okay, they did expand it out now. Before it kind of cut it off right to the Twin Cities. Now they did push it east. I guess I didn't notice that till just now. Until midnight central, primary threats include scattered large hail, likely with isolated very large hail to 2 inches in diameter. That's a new word. Scattered damaging gust to 70. Don't think we're going to need it out until midnight. I think it's going to be out of that area by then. But you can see where the severe thunderstorm watch lies at this point. And I would say, pretty much everybody back. Long Prairie, Wadena, Glenwood, Wilmer, Montevideo, Redwood Falls, Slayton, Worthington. We pretty much cut all this off at this point. Looks like we got a new severe thunderstorm warning a little bit further back now. for Benton County, 60 mile per hour winds, quarter-sized hail, moving east at 30. So coming up to Rice, Gilman, eventually Malacca. One thing how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of the severe thunderstorm watch? Everywhere I click, it pops up. I want it to go away. Somebody help me. So I click that, but that just brings that up. I want it to go away. Oh, there. Okay, I got to click on it. The St. Paul cam look a little more interesting. I can't believe, again, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the only place I can get a good, there we go. Thanks for zooming in, St. Paul. I was just going to say, I can't believe the only areas that that I can get a good camera is out of St. Paul, that there's nowhere else. Some little bit of rotation showing up here near Becker. Got a little bit of an inflow notch coming in here. Got our rear flank coming back in through here. So we should have some rotation. If I click on the velocity, showing up. Not the best, but around there. Not quite where or how I want it. But nevertheless, a little bit of rotation showing up in this by Becker. No. Well, no. I mean, doesn't look like it at the moment. Again, if I'm going to bet, I'll say no. Tornado, no. Is it 100? Is it a 0% chance? No, not a 0% chance. Just not likely. Again, here's what's going on, guys. Hey, we've got these. Shoot. Essentially, we got these storms just screaming east-southeastward, right? Pretty much all the winds are out of some sort of a westerly direction. And what you need at the surface is some kind of a southeasterly wind, about a kilometer up or about 5,000 feet up roughly. You need some southwest wind. And then once you get to 10,000 feet, you need a good stiff west wind, right? So that creates our rotation that goes on. Obviously, we talk about the hodographs and how the hodographs look, and it's a whole other deal we can get into. The hodographs look like this. So essentially, you're reversing it, you're flipping it, right? Well, what's going on is all our winds, for the most part, are this way. The only thing we have going is, and that's really pushing these storms quickly to the east-southeast. So when that happens, when these storms are flying, it's, you figure, you got particles of air here, right? And it's slamming into this particles of air. So it's creating an effect where it's almost like there's a bit of a southeasterly wind. Okay. So it's creating its own low level inflow, essentially its own low level wind. So now you're creating your own inflow. You got a little bit of a notch, but not too far up. The winds are bam. They're out of the west. Okay. So your hodograph might look something like this, right? Not just all your rotations vary at the low levels, right? But doesn't mean the chance is zero. It's still possible that maybe something briefly could spin up with a big enough updraft, right? So the chance is not zero. It's not great, but it's, just given how quick these storms are moving, quick little meteorology lesson there. That's the simplified version basically, but just this is where it just bears a little bit of watching sometimes. And this latest severe thunderstorm warning here, now just poking into those southwestern metro areas. 60-mile-per-hour wind, quarter-sized hail, moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. Location, or be near Waconium, Minnetrista, and St. Boniface around 825. Other locations include Mound, Chaska, Chanhassen, Victoria, Excelsior, Carver, Eden Prairie, and Shakopee. Oh, yeah, we go down to Shakopee for the crazy days. So currently over Watertown. Man, that is interesting. Not showing up on the, when it comes to the base velocities and storm relative velocities, normalize, yeah. ZDR, come on. Yeah, kind of messy. Just interesting. Well, yeah, don't you know? Yeah, I was, I think I must have been talking about it before you got back, but yeah, this thing, I was given a little bit of a meteorology lesson because Grace asked about tornadoes. I'm just saying, not a great chance, but just there's never a 0% chance. How about that? Definitely some good hail heading towards Big Lake, Elk River, Otsego. What is that? Dunt? I don't know. Can't see that. Keep your left eye, keep your good eye on this one just in case, at least for just a little longer. Does have just a bit of an appendage on it. We've got some inflow going on. Got our little appendage going on here. I would imagine very much so there are people watching this one. So if there's anything that comes out of that, if it bears any type of tornado warning, we will get it quickly. That one still says 1 3/4 inch hail, 60 mile per hour winds possible with this. We got this guy further north, heading towards Foley and Gilman. Ping pong, 60 mile per hour wind and quarter size hail rather with that. I think this one just updated. Golf ball sized hail and 60 mile per hour winds. Ramsey, Elk River, Otsego, Monticello, Big Lake, Zimmerman, and Oruk. Yeah, rotation's just not coming together, at least at the moment, so that's good. They just kind of slapped out a big warning for this whole area in through here. Again, nice commercial up above me. I do not endorse anything that pops up there, but it is the St. Paul cam, so unfortunately we have to live with it. So moving south, boy, they're saying 55 miles per hour with this, 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail. Watkins at 825, Litchfield at 830. Other locations include Dassel. Yeah, probably some gustier winds coming out of this, heading towards Manana, Eden Valley, Crow River, Forest River. Looks like some gusty winds poking out of there. Whatever goggles you want, if you want them to be beer goggles, that's just, I get it, man. I'm all about the beer goggles. We've got a little bit of hail still just down by Ellendale. There's not a severe thunderstorm warning out for that particular one at the moment. There's a special weather statement saying gusty winds, 50 mile per hour and half-inch hail. I'm going to say 50 miles per hour and 1-inch hail. But I'm not a National Weather Service employee. So what do I know? The buckets. What the hell is going on? Okay. Weird. So we're just watching these storms running into the metro here. We've got the goofy St. Paul cam looking towards Minneapolis. You can see some rain now approaching. You can basically see it on the radar. There's some rain moving across the Minneapolis metro area at this point. The bigger storms are still off just a bit. So this guy kind of continues to run in between highway. I think this is 10 and 94 here. Track it. Yeah, so it would be something like that it would run. Oops. Let's try that again. So something like that is roughly how it's running across. So if I'm going to do the old, let's put the hurricane on it. The hurricane cone will kind of go out like that. So for that particular storm, northeastern parts of the metro, just be on the lookout for that one. That's had a history of some pretty decent sized hail. We'll try to track this one now. So basically moving on across Lakeville, across I-35. Your cone of uncertainty might be like that. I know it's not a pretty line, but geez, it gives you a good idea. These areas to the north, kind of running in this manner. So eventually running across Forest Lake, Cambridge, Harris Center City. And then these guys. Kind of again, still moving along that same line where this one could run across the same area across the Southwest Metro. And this thing's going to have a big cone of uncertainty. No, I won't have that big. There's my John Madden going crazy again. So just to kind of give you an idea roughly of how these particular storms that are currently severe warned will track. I'm thinking about drinking. It's not the it's not the late night hour just yet. Still remains a little bit of an appendage on there, but still nothing great when it comes to rotation. So that's good on this guy coming up to Big Lake, but probably more than, why do I not get this? Still more than likely some good, decent sized hail heading towards Big Lake and Elk River. This one, probably 1 inch hail roughly running towards Eden Prairie, Shorewood, Minnetonka. Maybe some breezier conditions running through, at least some gusty winds running through St. Boniface. We've got this cell not warned, but some small hail, breezy conditions running through Geneva, just north of Albert Lee, crossing I-35. And so that's what we got. This cell just continues to be the biggest one at the moment by Big Lake. And again, just trying to find, man, you'd think Big Lake. Just anything. Come on, give me a good camera. Just a good camera. Show me what's going on. Lucky you. I have not stepped away since I sat down. I think I sat down, about 5 o'clock by the time I got here. And yeah, my tuchus is a little sore. I need a better chair. Here, this is, let's play this one. This is not bad. By Monticello, looking kind of back into the storm. I-94 by road 25, highway, mile marker 194. Yeah, it has. Work's been crazy. This has been crazy. I poured out to Scott. Sorry, Scott. On just things I've been thinking about. This is northwest of Monticello, I believe, looking back more towards the east. Yeah, southeast. This is looking southeast. Must be the steam rising off the nuclear plant, I'm guessing. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to Region Weather Live, YouTube source for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. I'm meteorologist Brad Warner. Make sure if you haven't done so already, hit that like button. The latest warning out with this, let's see here. Golf ball size hail, 60 mile per hour winds, moving southeast at 35. This will be near Albertville. Oh no, save the shopping mall. Save the outlet mall. Albertville, 835 outlet mall people, watch out. Elk River, 840. St. Michael, Otsego, 845. Other locations include Ramsey and Anoka. 1 3/4 inch hail, 60 mile per hour winds. Doesn't have the wording, doesn't have the little appendage of saying tornado possible with it. So that's good. Whoever they've got for boots on the ground aren't saying anything. So that's a good thing. For some reason, some of the hail indicators aren't really showing up with this, and I don't know why. Scott, I just keep thinking with your level of enthusiasm and whatever else, I don't know. Not saying you'd make, I'm not guaranteeing you'd make money off it or good or whatever, but, it's always good to have a hobby. And if you can share it with other people somehow, I know you said something about starting a web page, so, or something in that nature. What the heck, if you can have the time, if you have the money, it's always good to have a hobby, and if you can share with other people, that always helps too. The main thing I'm looking at right now, guys, is just this guy by Big Lake. That's kind of the main concern. Otherwise, everything else isn't looking overly weather nerd here too. We should have a get together sometime, right? Weather Nerds Anonymous. Okay, I guess we wouldn't be so anonymous if we got together. But yeah. It's not fair. You get to see me. You get to know me. I don't know what anybody else looks like or what they're like. Yeah. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't been on here, I wouldn't mind if you just let me know where you're from, where you're watching from. I don't have the subscriber. Like normally I say you have to subscribe to talk. I don't think I've got that on tonight. Yeah, I've got anyone. So go ahead and let me know. But it used to be there. I used to have bigger turnouts last year. Whatever reason. And yeah, the what do you call them? The bots came around quite a bit, but I haven't seen them in a while, so I'm taking a chance. You can sure chat on here. Just let me know. Don't flood the chat, but just let me know where you're watching from.